What's going on, everybody? This is Channing with another Impact Over Fame podcast. Listen, we have Impact Spotlight today, and we have a good friend, somebody that I've grown to know over the years, um, who's really killing the game, and he's doing he's doing great things, and he's uh, he's growing, and you probably wouldn't know him, but you've probably seen a lot of his work. But he's here to talk about everything that went into that process from actually going from the place that he was at to growing and evolving and, maybe pivoting in his career. But we'll get into all that. But please help me welcome Mekale Jackson. What's going on, man?
Yo, Channing, what's up, man?
Yeah, man. Yeah, I'm so glad you were able to get on the show. I was so glad that we were able to make it work out. Um, for for me, I've always seen you from afar off. We had a brief time where we hung out, talked about things, and we always enjoyed that same experience of enjoying sports, the fanfare, everything around it, specifically the NBA and things like that. And that's kind of where we're connected. But for people who don't know you, just tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm Mekale Jackson. Anyone who, I guess, if you know me personally, or if you don't know me, or if you come across me professionally, I'm in the creative space, just as a professional, self-taught graphic designer, social media, digital marketing, all of the above. Family man, God fearing. Uh, you know, if the people who really know me knows that like I'm a big sports head. I talk sports, love sports, and then design, very focused. So like that's just me, like in a small nutshell. But I mean, like if you start to peel back the layers, like you'll just kind of start to see that okay, hey, I'm a very uh, goal oriented, very focused, detailed, and I'm someone who just kind of stays true to, hey, this is what I want to do, and I'm going to go out and do it. But I mean, let's definitely get into it, kind of peel back some of those layers. So uh, I could give you, some more details with that.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So tell us about the journey to being that digital creator, that person who really had a passion for doing what you do now, which is creating digital content, great digital content, I might add, very detailed, like you said. Um, I always like to say that the art tells a lot about the artist. So your art says a lot about the type of person you are, where every detail within each graphic that I see, it's really you took your time on it. You didn't cut any corners and anything like that. So tell us how you got to this point in your journey.
Yeah. So the funny thing is, I've never considered myself a graphic designer, even though like yeah, um, that's my main like career. Like that's what I built my career on. That's what I've built just my experience on was graphic design. I never consider myself an artist. I never put myself in that category. But I use design as a tool to be able to open doors for myself. So in college, I went to University of Michigan, and I was I picked English as a major. I majored in English. I ended up getting a degree in English, and it was too late to even switch a major because like I was too invested into English at that point. Uh, but I was in a frat, and one of my fraternity brothers was making like this party flyer. Now this was back YouTube wasn't even out yet, so they just kind of it kind of dates me, but. he was making this party flyer in Photoshop that, I found out, and I asked him like, "Yo, what are you like? What are you doing? Like, like what are you making?" And he said, "Oh, he's making this flyer." I said, "What program is that?" He said, "It's Photoshop." It was like a jazz night flyer for the jazz parties we used to throw as alphas back in Ann Arbor in Michigan. And I was amazed by it. So I said, "Hey, whatever you got on your computer, put it on mine." So I bought this bootleg Dell computer. It was cheap, like $400, and he gave me a pirated copy of Photoshop. Put it on the computer, and I just started to play around with it. Self-taught. Started making flyers for the fraternity. Started making flyers for the NPHC fraternal, council in Ann Arbor. Started making flyers for like some local clubs in Ann Arbor, promoting like our parties, promoting like parties in Ann Arbor. And then ultimately, it was, when it came time for me to graduate, my wife, my girlfriend then, wife now, she said, "Oh, you should probably start to, look at jobs as a graphic designer." I'm like, "Well, I don't like graphic design like that. I'm not going to look for a job in graphic design but then I said, well, if I am, I will only do it for sports." So ended up getting a job at a D3 school, a Division III college in New York, because my wife was moving to New York and I wanted to follow her. So I said, all right, I could go and find a job in New York. Went out to New York in a sports information office, and that's where my career kind of got started. I was there for 5 months, and then a role at St. John's opened up, and I ended up matriculating through St. John's. I was there for 12 years, loved it there. Ended up, I started off, as someone who just designed those media guides that you would get when you go to a sports game. Like it's like 200 pages. You flip through it. It's like bios of every player. Started doing that, and then eventually got to the point where I was leading the creative marketing and digital department, and for the entire athletics department. But within that time frame, I started to freelance, and that was because I wanted to grow in my career, but because I was limited to New York, because my wife does well in her career, and in order for me to grow, I needed to get outside experience. So I'm saying, okay, well, I could probably freelance just to kind of see how these other companies and how these other schools how they operate. So I started to do a lot of freelance graphic design for a bunch of other schools around the area: Michigan, Northwestern, Manhattan, Niagara, a bunch of different schools, Seton Hall. And then eventually I started to do graphic design for the NBA, Bleacher Report, Cleveland Cavs, Phoenix Suns. And then, so I was, just doing that for years. So that's where my freelance career like really just kind of took off just in during that period. So, after a few years of doing that, it's a full-time job almost. I'm balancing a full-time job and I'm balancing freelancing almost full-time, 9 p.m. to 2 a.m. every single night for years, because, I got family to support, kids to feed, and I'm in New York. It ain't cheap. So,
Right.
and ended up going to Major League Soccer for a few years, and then now currently at Rock Nation, leading the digital team over here.
That's amazing. That's amazing. It was so it was so many nuggets in there that I want to get into in a brief moment that we have. The first is the mindset. So we have a lot of people who feel like they're limited in what they do because of their job or anything like that. Like you said, you needed that outside experience, so you decided to take it in your hands to create the opportunity for yourself. So take us behind the mindset of something that you were curious in, you may have been even passionate about, but going from that passion to actually putting in the work and actually creating that opportunity for yourself when you didn't really see one available to you. What take us behind that mindset?
So now, like, if I look at like myself now, like I'm in a much better mental space. I'm more secure in who I am. I'm more secure in my skill set. I'm more secure in what I bring to the table. But it wasn't always like that. I mean, this story goes like I could pinpoint the exact date where everything changed, where everything finally clicked. Because in 2012, I had, I was still early into my career. I wasn't, I was freelancing for maybe one other smaller school, and I had been doing that for like 3 years. And it was a small school. It wasn't, it was nothing necessarily noteworthy. You probably wouldn't even know the name of the school, but it was a freelance client I did. It helped pay my portion of the wedding, that one client, when I married Aisha. Um, but it got to a point where like, hey, I didn't see myself growing. I was stuck. Um, like, hey, like what's next? And like I said, it's like, hey, in order to like grow in the college athletics world at the time, like you had to leave. But leaving New York wasn't an option because my wife was doing well in her career. So it was 2012. I'm sitting in the apartment. I just tore my Achilles, playing ball, and I started to reach out to a bunch of different schools in terms of like, hey, just soliciting for freelance, so my services. So I would cold call or cold email hundreds of schools. All right, so it was just a bunch. I had nothing but time. I was in the apartment. Remember, tore my Achilles, ankles up, and I was getting nobody was responding. And I said, all right, because I was only reaching out to smaller schools because I was like questioning myself as a creative, questioning my skill set. So I said, hey, let me just reach out to these smaller schools. And so I got frustrated. It's like, man, ain't nothing popping off, ain't nothing happening, nothing is going on. And I started to just question myself as like, is this even the path that God want me to be in? Like, am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing? So I said, you know
Right.
what? I'm going to go ahead and reach out to all these bigger schools because this is it. No one else has responded back. I'm going to just shoot my shot, whatever. And I remember 2012, wife is pregnant with our first kid. Achilles is torn. I'm there. I'm defeated. I said, I'm going to shoot these emails off and I'm not going to hear back. And that's it. I'm done with design. I was really at the mental point. Hey, I'm done with graphic design. I'm going to pivot to a different career. Sent the emails to like Michigan, Northwestern. To me at the time, like, okay, these Big Ten schools, you know what? This is my last hurrah. Boom. I sent the emails, turn off the computer, start playing 2K because in my head, hey, I'm pivoting careers. I'm out the graphic design business. And out of all the emails I sent out, from the smaller schools to the Division III schools, the people who responded was those bigger schools like Michigan and Northwestern. And it was like, wow, they responded and they became my biggest clients because they recognized, like the people at Michigan, I guess, recognized some work that I did around New York because like whoever went to Michigan, they worked for the Knicks. And I was doing a lot of stuff for St. John's and the Garden that they saw my work because they were affiliated with the Knicks and they saw my work in and around the Garden. So they recognized my name and they said, oh, so like they brought me on as a freelancer. And that's where everything just kind of blossomed. It was like right at the point where I gave up, right at the point where I was frustrated and there's nothing left for me to do. I said, well, I don't know what else to do. So they responded to me and, at the time they became my biggest client. And everything just took off from that one point in 2012.
Man,
Yeah.
when you sell yourself short, let this be a reality check. When you sell yourself short from the place where you think you are to coming to the table where you think you're a small player, that that can never be, because you never know what's on the other side of just taking that chance. And when
Right.
you look at this in your story, you were in your mind, because you were a freelancer, you were selling yourself and marketing yourself to places where you thought you had easy access, when in reality it was already set up for you to go to the next level big time, because people had already seen your work and the excellence behind it. So
Right.
so if you were talking to someone who was in that same predicament where they're at the end of their rope, but they're targeting an audience that's smaller than where they should be, or they're not taking that chance, from that perspective, looking back, how would you encourage them or talk to them um, to see it from 2022 Mekale Jackson?
Well, look, I wouldn't. So, would I encourage someone to, hey, don't think small, think bigger? Sure. You know what? I think like there's lots of people who would say that and give that particular advice. I'm not going to give it. You know, it's like, hey, I'm the type to give like, okay, hey, what do you want to do? You know, I'm a very habit driven person. I'm a man of routine. I'm a man of consistency. I'm someone who is like, okay, hey, I will start small. I'm the type to say, okay, let me just make, you know, one foot in front of the other. Let me start right here. Let me do this real good. You know, let me get the process in place. Because 22 Mekale, when I look back at, you know, at 2012 and see that, okay, hey, you know, like why did it take so long for me to reach that breakthrough? It's because if I would have got the clients at the time that came in 2012, if I would have got those clients in 2010, I wasn't ready. My processes wasn't ready. I didn't have the right equipment. I wasn't fast enough. I wasn't, you know, the skill set wasn't there. I didn't have enough knowledge about certain things that were already in place. But by the time 2012 come, like, okay, hey, I'm already like, because of everything that came before it, I'm ready for what came in 2012. And then by the time I started to get clients who were at the national level, like the NBA and Bleacher Report and a lot of those NBA teams, is like, okay, hey, at that point, now the process is almost complete. It's like, you know, I have my systems in place. You know, the Dropbox is linking. Everything is like, at this point, I'm a machine. I'm 9 p.m. to 2 a.m. Like it's a well-oiled machine at that point. So now 2022 Mekale will tell people like, hey, you need to have your processes in place. You need to be consistent. What are you doing just on a consistent basis? You know, because if I am more efficient now as a 37-year-old, married for 12 years with 3 kids, balancing a full-time job and still freelancing is like, hey, I'm more efficient now than I ever was 10 years ago. And so like anyone who says that, oh, I don't have the time, well, you probably do. You're just not using it right. I mean,
Right,
like, you know,
right.
like you're definitely not using it right, but it takes time to build in those efficiencies. It takes time, it takes dedication, it takes discipline. And you know, to me, right now, it comes easier because I'm a man of discipline, routine, and habits. Like, hey, this is what I'm going to do, and everything is built. So now I could something that would have taken me 4 hours to do 10 years ago takes me an hour to do now. Like if you asked for something for me and I was working on something for you, and I was out and about, hey, I could send you the link. Why? Because I built a process in place where I don't need to tell a client or tell you know, someone who I work with, hey, I'll give that to you when I get back to my computer. Like, no, I could just send a link from my phone because the processes are in place. Everything's synced together. 4 different computers I use in 4 different locations. Everything is always syncing. You know, all my files are in certain areas. You know, even like during my downtime, if I'm not working on any paid projects, it's like, hey, I'm creating exploratory designing for fun and posting to my social media because it's like, hey, I need to develop a different style, or like I'm practicing a tutorial that I saw, or it's just I'm playing around with different textures. It's something that I'm constantly just trying to get better, and then putting it on social. That's, you know, for me, it's a creative outlet. It's one of those things where yeah, you put it out there, and I've gotten a lot of work just from people saying like they'll reach out. I'm talking big companies will reach out and say, hey, saw your name come across our profile. We want you to create, you know, X, Y, and Z. And they were inspired by the stuff that I had been posting for fun. It's like, oh,
Right.
they just want me to do that. It's all right, cool, because I was already doing it. COVID was a wake up because even though the sports world slowed down, so naturally, what I was doing freelance wise slowed down a lot. Fortunately, I had a full time job, so that's the benefit of having multiple sources of income. Like you're not
Right.
limited to just one stream. Uh, when COVID came, okay, great. I'm not going to stop my 9 p.m. to 2 a.m. routine, even though I may not have 9 p.m. to 2 a.m. worth of work. My habit is already built in. I'm saying, okay, hey, I'm still going to practice this time slot I dedicated to creating for additional work that may come. So let me continue to maintain that time block and create for fun, create for creative exploration. Uh, so when it does pick back up, I don't, like it's not a far drop off, and I'm still in the habit of going to the computer, working on myself, building my own personal brand, and seeing how I can expand that brand. I know that was
Nice.
a long-winded answer to.
But there was so many nuggets in that that people can take away to enhance their career or advance. It's the point where
Yeah,
even if the work slows down or if things change, your habits and your discipline should not change, and it should stay that routine, that consistency should stay the same. So that's everything behind the passion. Those are the principles that you use to get to where you are. So
yeah,
in this latter part of your career, you went through the growth phase at Michigan with the curiosity. Um, you went through the landing a job at St. John's and enhancing your abilities and your talents, and then saying, you know what, there's more. So I'm going to market myself to more by reaching out to the universities for freelance work and landing freelance jobs with your Big Ten, Michigan schools and things like that. Now, even in that, where you currently are, which is at Rock Nation, now you say there was still more. So take us from that pivot, or if you will, from going from St. John's, which is a big deal. I always thought it was a big deal, to saying there's room in my career to grow. Take us through that phase.
yeah. So I was at St. John's for like 12 years, and at the time I was still freelancing almost full time. So like I always look at myself as having almost like two careers, one full time job and then a freelance thing. And then people always ask me, "Oh, like why don't you do the freelance thing full time?" Like, well, no, I have career goals. It's like I love sports. I want to be on this side of sports. I just don't want to be a full time freelance creative. It's like no, I want I would do both as long as it allowed me to, and I was able to do it. So at St. John's, it's okay. Well, you're designing. I'm designing for St. John's, and then I was still designing for a bunch of other schools. And then still at the time, I started to design a lot for the NBA and some NBA teams, all while balancing both. But I knew that there had to been more to my professional career, and I wasn't going to get it in the college athletic space because in order to grow in that field, you have to leave city to city, state to state, which wasn't an option for me at the time. So I knew there's a window. It was like my last year at St. John's, like we have broke like the college record for like the most awards, like industry awards in marketing and creative, like for the group that I was in. Like it was like Division 1 non-football school, Division 1, something like that. It was like we won like 8 awards that year, and it's like, man, I'm really on fire right now.
Right.
And and it's all like I'm not going to compare myself to Jordan, okay? But remember when Jordan retired for the first time? He said, "Oh, I have nothing left to prove."
Right.
It was,
I, it can't get no better than this.
yeah,
I've
yeah,
beat everybody.
yeah. It was almost one of those, but not really. It was like, okay, hey, if I'm going to leave, now is the time. And again, it was the period of time where there's another frustrating moment came. This was 2018. It was frustrating because I was applying to all these jobs. I interviewed everywhere. Like I'm the type of person. Hey, I will interview. I will take an interview just to just kind of sharpen up my skills and in conversation, like, because I don't want to flop an interview and I'm not ready. It's like, no, like you got to get some reps in. So I'll talk to this company, talk to that company, just for the sake of just get it in the habit of interviewing. But at this point, I've heard a lot of no's. Like it got to the point where like the no's really started to bother me. And similar to 2012, this is 6 years later. I'm sitting there like, okay, well, am I even supposed to be in sports? Like, and I start questioning myself with that. It's like here I go again. Like everything was popping. I had, we had bought a house based off of a 1 year worth of work from a freelancer. One client got me enough to like put the 20% down payment on a house. Just one client. I'm like, man, hey. So it's like,
don't listen. Hold on. Don't just breeze past that. It allowed you to put 20% down on a house in New York. Let's not skip over that. So we doing well for ourselves. I mean,
it was like, hey, God was good. God was good. But still, like at that point, it was okay. Well, I want to advance in my career. I was at St. John's for a while, and I heard a lot of no's, and I was getting like, it was really being down on myself, and started to question what I was doing. So I stopped applying for jobs, and coincidentally, I think I ended up reading like a book. It was like Heather's book. It was like Quiet Season or something like that, which really, it was a turning point in that particular moment in my life. I just happened to read that because I was like, well, is God even talking to me? And then so I stopped applying for jobs. I said, I'm gonna stop caring. And then I had 2 months go by and end up, let me just go and see what's out there. Something at Major League Soccer, or whatever, man. So I just send my resume. And then they reach back out. And at this point, I got nothing to lose. I mean, like all these other interviews, I would put my best self forward. I would, do all this research. But it seemed like the jobs that you end up getting ultimately is the one that's supposed to be for you. It's like, like for me, it was like little effort. So in MLS, it was like, okay, well, I'm not doing a lot of like, hey, I'll go in and talk to you. I say, I don't know that much about soccer. I know college soccer because I worked in college sports for 12 years, but I don't know anything about fencing. But I promoted fencing in because I worked at St. John, so sure. But I don't know anything about MLS, and none of that really mattered because it's everything else I brought to the table, which was the creative, the design, the being a sport fan, understanding marketing, social media, and design, and all of that. So that just ended up, it was a breakthrough for me because like that was a sweatless interview. Ended up going to MLS because I needed the league experience. I wanted to have a pro league full-time experience just to kind of see their processes because I was just at a point that I needed to grow professionally. I stopped growing professionally when I was at St. John's. Great people, but I needed more. And then I got to MLS, and it was great because I had a chance to really grow. I realized that I didn't know a lot of things, and it was definitely like just a good moment for me to see that. Okay, hey, great, I'm here. I didn't know too much about the sport. I learned a lot, and I just kind of grew from there. And I was there for 3 years, and then. Fast forward another 3 years, and again, you reach that point of frustration where I was okay, well, what's next? And again, interviewed at a few different other spots that I thought I was going to get, and it didn't turn out. And I started to question once again. So now and then Rock Nation, like they reached out to me, and one thing led to another, and it's always these roles that like you don't necessarily see coming. It's like once I knew that I'm not going to try to work at it, it's like, hey, I'm just going to be myself. So that's everything. Like, I tell to other people, I even tell to my wife, like, I'm going to be me regardless. Like every situation I walk in now, I'm not going to pretend to be somebody I'm not. If I don't know something, I'm going to say I don't know it. I'm not going to code switch. I'm wearing a hoodie right now. All right. I'm going to the office. I'm going to be me through and through. And you're not going to change that, because at the end of the day, in the industry that I'm in, they want me for what I bring to the table. They want me for because of my experiences. Uh, and so it's just, just me being authentically just me.
Perfect. Listen, as we close, bring this to a close, the most valuable thing you can do is show up as you.
Right.
And what you bring to the table will speak for itself. But as long as you bring you to the table, that'll speak volumes to anyone else sitting there. So, listen, give us some parting words, some encouragement for people out there who are really searching for their passion, don't really believe that they're enough, and even for those who are in your similar situation where they've maxed out where they are and they're looking to go to the next level. What advice would you give?
Start small, put one foot in front of the other. Just be consistent. Whatever you're doing, just be consistent at it. Just do it. It takes, I don't know the quote, it takes 7 days to build a new habit or something like that. I don't know what it is, but start small and just continue to do it. Build a routine. Build a routine. Try to just do something, just one step at a time, and eventually you'll get to where you want to be. But you got to be consistent at it, and just and watch your words. For me, I'm big on just watching words, be consistent, and just do it with excellence.
Perfect. Couldn't have said it better. Well, thank you, my brother, for being here. I appreciate you giving us some time. Um, Love what you're doing. I appreciate you as a family man, first and foremost, a God-fearing man. I appreciate your consistency because I've seen that throughout. And I know my life is much better because I know you, man. So
Appreciate it.
I appreciate you, man. Uh, Go be great. Do even bigger and better things. And I'm pretty sure pretty soon we're going to see Mekale Jackson graphic design company somewhere, and I'll sign up for business. Absolutely.
See, look, it already exists, but I only work in sports, man. I'm very focused. I don't take anything outside of sports, so I don't get distracted.
Aha. I only work in sports. Listen, you know where your field is at. You know where your favor is at, and I appreciate that, bro.
Yeah, no doubt, man. Appreciate it.
All right, man. This has been another episode of Impact Over Fame with the Impact Spotlight with Mekale Jackson. We'll put all the information down to his links, information, so you can get to know him a little bit better in the show contents. Appreciate everybody. Join us next time.